Welcome on in, WIP Daily. Joe Giglio with you. Appreciate everyone downloading, subscribing, following the podcast, and of course, our video feed here on the 94 WIP YouTube page. Myself, Tucker Bagley, who will hop on in a few minutes, give our big take in the world of Philadelphia sports every single day. And today, and it's really been this way for a few days now, it's all about the Sixers and what they're going to do this summer and what they're going to do with their biggest decisions. And the James Harden situation is what it is. They obviously don't really want him here. He opted in. And I just feel like that's just a matter of time until they could find the right deal to move him. But really the big decision and what's holding the NBA up right now is Dame Lillard and where he's going to go if he gets his wish to go to Miami, or if the Blazers do what's right for their franchise, and that's trade him for the best package. And if that's the case, there's an opportunity knocking for the Sixers to do something that really they've been trying to do for the better part of 5 or 6 years, which is find the lead ball handler to pair with Joel Embiid. And as time has gone on, I think the realization, at least that I've had, and I think a lot of people elsewhere have had, that Joel Embiid doesn't just need a running mate, doesn't just need a point guard. He needs a closer. He needs a shot maker. He needs an alpha. He needs the guy to take over and make him the clear number 2 if the Sixers are ever going to win anything significant. And they've tried. They've tried a lot of different kind of boxes here, whether it be Ben Simmons, nope. Markelle Fultz, nope. Jimmy Butler, good, but not. It just didn't work out here the way maybe it could have, or maybe it was meant to be, but whatever. It didn't work. He went to Miami. And then it became James Harden. And there's a ceiling on that one. And now there's a hope in Philadelphia. It's Tyrese Maxey. And look, I like Tyrese Maxey. Tremendous pick where the Sixers got him. He's a good player. I think he'll continue to be a good player. His improvement from where he was as a rookie a couple years ago to shooting, especially his three-point shooting to where it is now, tremendous. And there's a real chance he continues to grow and he becomes 24, 25 point per game guy and an NBA All-Star at some point. But guess what he's not going to be? Dame Lillard. Ever. He's never going to be Dame Lillard. And even if he has a chance to be close to it, he's probably not going to be that in the next few years. The Sixers have an opportunity here to land Dame Lillard. As I look around, the NBA at who is reportedly interested. So you have the Miami Heat, and it seems like all the reporting out there is like, well, the Blazers don't really like what the Heat have to offer. Okay, so maybe they get a third team involved, but they don't really love it, and it's almost like they're just going to send him there because Dame says, send me there. And then, you throw in the Brooklyn Nets. They could probably do it, but is that a team Dame is going to give his blessing towards? Is he, if we come to a point where Miami is just not good enough with their offer, and the Blazers say, Dame, it's not going to happen, does he really want to go to Brooklyn? Maybe. I mean, he's talked about them. He likes Bridges, but I don't think they have enough even with him and Bridges. You go to the Sixers, and you have Joel Embiid, who, for all my criticisms of him, he was the NBA MVP. And I think players in the league look at him like, hey, he's a really good player. I could play with that guy. So the Sixers, among the teams that have been named, they have the best young player that is potentially on the table, and that is Maxey. And I say potentially because the nonsense that's been out there the last couple of days, obviously put into the atmosphere by Daryl Morey, that the Sixers aren't going to trade him. That the Brian Windhorst thing the other day was just, it was just showmanship to the nth degree by Windhorst on whatever he was on ESPN, one of the podcaster shows, talking about how they wouldn't trade him. What was the line like? Prime 25-year-old LeBron James, lose our number. Like the idea they wouldn't trade Maxey for Jordan or LeBron or Giannis is so beyond silly. It's just nuts. Like, of course you would. And no, Lillard isn't LeBron, and he's not Michael, and he's not Giannis, but he is a 7-time All-NBA player. He just averaged over 32 points per game. And a couple things make this to where it's a no-brainer. And I actually believe if we find out as time goes along, the Sixers passed this up, that they really wouldn't trade Maxey for him, and had they done it, they would have landed Dame. I think it'll go down as one of the biggest what-ifs or regrets or mistakes in Sixers franchise history. That's how good Dame still is. And then you factor a couple other things. Number one, if he goes to Miami, let's just say it plays out, or he goes to Miami, or the Celtics get involved, or he just comes east to a team that's already good, Celtics, Heat, one of those kind of teams, well, then it's over. Like the Sixers already operate in a world where over the last, 5 years, they have been at times considered the top of the East, but really they've been more towards the 3-4 range consistently. That's what they've been. they've kind of hung out in that 3-4 range, and every you can kind of squint and say maybe they get to the finals, but that's not who they are. And the Raptors had a nice run; they've obviously fallen off. But the three I'm talking about in the last few years that have been right there with the Sixers, most wins, fighting for the 1 seed all year, and then it shakes out. The Milwaukee Bucks, I think they're better than the Sixers. The Boston Celtics, they're obviously better than the Sixers. They beat them all the time. And the Miami Heat, who, yes, it's convenient now to say, well, they were just an 8 seed. They were the 1 the year before that, and they were in the finals in the bubble. So they've been consistently a contender in this conference. If you put Dame Lillard on the Heat with Jimmy Butler, and I know they're subtracting some parts, but if the Sixers allow that to happen, it's over. The East, it's over, because Miami is no longer like that. Well, we'll see what they do in the regular season versus the playoffs. No, they'll be a 50-something win team. Like, just lock it in. The Bucks with Giannis, lock that in. And we know the Celtics have been well over 50 the last couple of years, trip to the NBA Finals, all these Eastern Conference Finals. The Sixers will enter next season at best fourth. At best fourth, and that's with, things going the right way. I mean, who knows if the Cavaliers are take another step or whatever, or the Nets if they make a move to put alongside Bridges. Like, the Sixers could fall to 5-6 easily in the Eastern Conference. So whatever this window is to get to the finals, to win the finals, to capitalize on having a player like Joel Embiid, during his prime, it's going to evaporate. So letting this go away, not pursuing Dame Lillard is ridiculous. And it would put the Sixers in a spot where their chances to win the East are dead on arrival. And most years, that's not the feeling entering the season. It's, I think, fair skepticism around the team. That can they really do this? Are they really going to win in the playoffs? But, you could, the odds for the Eastern Conference to start the season, the odds for the NBA title, they're always in the mix. If Dame comes East to one of the 3 top teams ahead of the Sixers anyway, it's over. Dead on arrival. The Sixers window is dead. So that's the first thing that jumps out. Like, you can't pass this up, and you can't let the other teams in the East, specifically Miami, get better. The second thing is windows. Like, I always think in sports, it's all sliding doors. It's windows. And the Sixers are in a weird spot right now where Tyrese Maxey, although very good and certainly promising, his window doesn't match up with Joel Embiid's window. And what I mean by that is, like, when he'll be really ready to win a championship. Typically, the 1, 2, or 3 on a title team are not as young. And there's some outliers, but it's typical. They're not as young as Maxey is now. It's more like 28, 29, 30, 31. Grown-ups win championships in the NBA, not kids. Dame Lillard's a grown-up. Joel Embiid should be a grown-up, but at least age-wise, he is a grown-up. Like, those two fit together age-wise to go win a title way more than Maxey and Embiid does. And look, maybe Maxey gets there. Maybe 3 or 4 years from now, Maxey is a third-team All-NBA guard. He is an all-star. He's averaging 24.5, 25 points a game, and he's looked at as, one of the 20 or so best players in the league. That is certainly possible. But by that time, Joel Embiid is 33. Is he as good as he is now? Probably is not. And then you start thinking, well, is he good enough at this point? Is he still great at this point to help Tyrese Maxey, even if Maxey ever reached that level? So it's got to match up. And I don't think it does. Tucker, I can't believe, and frankly, I think a lot of the stuff out there this weekend is Daryl Morey just playing games because he probably thinks right now Maxey doesn't want to come. Lillard doesn't want to come here. So why put the Maxey stuff out there if it's going to hurt the kid's feelings? Because he's probably going to be back anyway. But like, if they really wouldn't trade Maxey for Dame, it's insane.
Yeah, it makes no sense. And Damian Lillard is the guy that you hope and pray Tyrese Maxey turns into, like you said, 3, 4, maybe 5 years down the line. And I see a lot of people compare, well, look at what Lillard did his third season compared to Maxey. Maxey averaged 20 points per game this year. I think Lillard was between 21 and 22. And sure, that's true, but Damian Lillard's making all-star teams by this point, right? And he was up to 25, 26 points per game by the time he was 24 years old. And even though Tyrese Maxey is young, my big thing, and you hit on it, is the timeline. Like, if you're committed to building a championship team around Joel Embiid, I just don't see how Tyrese Maxey necessarily fits with that timeline. Like, if he's going to hit his peak, 4 years from now, 5 years from now, that's great. But it doesn't fit with Joel Embiid, because if you're building around him and if you're worried about, how can we build a contender in the next 2, 3, 4 years, waiting on a guy who's not going to hit his peak in that window just doesn't really make any sense. And if you're Joel Embiid and you see them building around it, and kind of think about what Damian Lillard just did in Portland, where he said, hey, I don't want the 3rd overall pick. Someone, please get someone here who can help me win a title this year. And they obviously drafted somebody, and now he wants out. I don't think Joel Embiid's going to, throw a fit if they say, hey, it's you and Tyrese. Good luck, bud. But I do think this team maybe takes a step backwards this year and maybe next year. And you look at what Tyrese Maxey has done, as much fun as he is to watch, he got shut down in the playoffs. Like, he really struggled against Boston in most of that series to make an impact. I think he had 30 points in one of the games they won and 26 in another. But I just look at what he did in the postseason. He just disappears. And it's not his fault. Like, young players tend to struggle in the postseason. It tends to take a little while for them to kind of figure it out. And as cliche as it is to say, it is a different brand of basketball, and the Celtics are really good at limiting him in the open court. But if he's going to be that kind of player, I don't need regular season players on the team, right? You need a guy like Damian Lillard who can create your own shot, who can, work in the half court, who in the final 2 minutes of the game, he's going to get a shot off and you're not going to get blocked or whatever it may be. It makes no sense. And we did this last year where I love Tyrese Maxey. The idea that people wouldn't trade him for Kevin Durant last year, they wouldn't trade him for Damian Lillard now, I just don't get it. Like, as much fun as he is to watch it, and maybe you have a closet full of Tyrese Maxey jerseys and you don't want them to go out of style, but my goodness, I mean, this is a 7-time All-NBA guy. He averaged 32 points per game a year ago. He's a legitimate All-NBA player every year he plays if he's healthy. There's no reason that if the Blazers called Daryl Morey tomorrow and said, hey, we'll swap Lillard for Tyrese Maxey, I mean, Daryl Morey should drive Tyrese Maxey to the airport. Like, it shouldn't be a question.
Yeah, it's so easy that it feels crazy. Like, that's where I'm at. Like, of course you trade Tyrese Maxey for Damian Lillard. Everything Tucker said is spot on. One other thing I want to hit on, because I've seen this brought up and talked about on WIP, is a reason why the Sixers may not want to do this. They may not want to travel down this road. It's pretty clear through all the reporting that Dame Lillard wants to go to Miami. And my retort to that is, I don't care. I mean, I don't care. That's great. He wants to go to Miami. He's not a free agent. If he wanted to go to Miami that bad, he would have not signed this last contract, became a free agent. He could have went to Miami on his own. He has 4 years left on his contract. And I've got 2 examples for you of why this just doesn't matter. Number one is Kawhi Leonard a couple years ago in Toronto. I mean, he made it as clear as day to anyone. He was signing a year from his last season of his contract in Los Angeles. No one knew Clippers or Lakers, but he was going to Los Angeles. It was just, everyone knew that. And the Raptors said, all right, we'll still trade for him. And they won an NBA title with Nick Nurse, by the way, as their head coach. And from the Nick Nurse book, which we talked about a few weeks ago on the podcast, Kawhi was a pro. He said he was in. He said he'd give him a year. It was like this thing everyone kind of realized, but he gave him his all for a year, and they won a championship. Dame doesn't even have that. It's not like he can get out of his contract in a year. He's got nowhere to go. If he gets traded to the Sixers, he's a Sixer. Like, what is he going to do, pout and sit out? So that's one. And two, I think sometimes history, it's instructive in the NBA. The way this usually works is the team that trades the young player for the established star almost always wins the deal. Almost always. So don't be afraid of Maxey coming back to burn the Sixers. If you get the best player, if he's that good, you win the deal. And the second thing is, one of those deals that I'm referencing, this reminds me so much of Kevin Garnett's exit from Minnesota. You know, kind of a small market franchise drafts this amazing player, and he gives them 10, 11, 12 years of greatness. And, you know, he becomes one of the greatest players in franchise history. Obviously, Garnett joined a relatively new NBA franchise, so he's the best Wolf of all time. Wolf, whatever he is. He's a great Timberwolves player, obviously. And Lillard, one of the great players of all time. But at some point, both parties realize it's not going to work. We're not going to win here. We'll send you off somewhere else. I pulled it up. Mark Stein, who now does his Substack thing, but at one point was ESPN, right? This is an article from June 21st, 2007. Here's the headline. Wolves Celtics trade talk. Garnett says, forget it. Garnett wanted to go to the Suns. He wanted to go to Phoenix. That was his preferred destination. And he basically threatened, because he had 1 year left on his deal, he could have opted out after the first year, to just leave Boston after a year, kind of like Kawhi. But the Celtics did it anyway, because it was Kevin Garnett, and they were trying to win a championship. And then guess what happened? Garnett fell in love with Boston. He won a championship in his first year and obviously stayed there for a long time until the trade to the Nets all those years later. But finals, Eastern Conference finals appearance. He became a legend in Boston, and he's, I think, the biggest reason they have a title since the Larry Bird days. Like, they only have one. It's Kevin Garnett. It's very similar to this. I don't care what Dame Lillard wants. If you can get him for Maxey, you do it. And remember back then, Al Jefferson, very promising 20, 21-year-old center, came out of high school. I think he averaged like 16, 17 points a game in a very young age. He was looked at as a major piece, and he went to Minnesota, had a nice career. But the Celtics got Kevin Garnett. And I think we're dealing with the same exact thing right now. Maxey is this version of Jefferson, and Garnett's this version of Lillard. If they really don't like the Miami offer, Daryl Morey owes it to himself and the Sixers to offer up Tyrese Maxey and to get this deal done. It could change the Sixers franchise forever. I mean, it could change Joel Embiid's career forever. It could change Daryl Morey's legacy forever. Yes, you absolutely trade Tyrese Maxey to go get Dame Lillard. Appreciate everyone watching, listening today. Back soon, of course, WIP Daily. Follow the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe. And the 94 WIP YouTube page. Thanks so much for listening.